You know what's funny? When people hear that I left corporate after 20 years to become an entrepreneur, they assume that was the end of the story. Like I rode off into the sunset. Freedom, coffee shops, flexible schedules, living my dream. But life is really that neat. What most people don't know is that years after leaving my corporate job and building my own consulting business, I actually went back. And honestly, at first, I was excited about it because by then I had changed. You see, when I first left corporate in 2017, I left burnt out, exhausted, and emotionally disconnected from myself. But entrepreneurship rebuilt something in me. It rebuilt my confidence, my creativity, my sense of ownership over life. I built a consulting business. I coached entrepreneurs and corporate teams. I worked globally. I learned how to build relationships digitally, even before that became mainstream. And for several years, it was incredibly rewarding, especially during COVID. Ironically, while many traditional businesses struggled, our online coaching and consulting work exploded because suddenly the world needed digital connection. But then the world shifted again. People returned to face-to-face business. AI entered the picture. Markets evolved. And around that time, one of my consulting clients, a major listed mining company, approached me with an opportunity to join them permanently. Now, what made this interesting was I hadn't applied for a job. I wasn't actively even looking to return to corporate. They approached me because they had experienced my work firsthand. And that taught me something important. When you consistently solve problems and create value, opportunities have a way of finding you. So after careful thought, I accepted. And in many ways, it was a great opportunity. I built and led a team, worked on large-scale transformation initiatives, delivered meaningful results. And initially, I genuinely enjoyed being back because I returned as a different person, not the exhausted executive I had once been when I left. This time, I had perspective. I knew I could survive outside corporate. And strangely, that made me less fearful inside it. But over time, something interesting happened. A feeling slowly started returning. Not burnout this time, something else. I began realizing that while I enjoyed solving problems, I didn't enjoy staying in the same cycle for too long anymore. The endless meetings, the politics, the layers of approvals, the repetition. And I noticed something about myself that I had never fully understood before, is that I love building. I love momentum. I love stepping into complex situations, helping create clarity, and then moving on to the next challenge. That's how I'm wired. Now, some people thrive in long-term operational environments, and we need those people. But I realized I'm energized more by transformation than by maintenance, more by creation than routine. And that awareness changed everything for me, because I stopped seeing my career through the lens of status or stability. I started seeing it through the lens of alignment. Who am I really? How do I naturally operate at my best? What kind of work gives me energy instead of draining it? Then eventually, during a restructuring process at this company, voluntary severance packages were offered, and interestingly, I was one of the first to raise my hand. Not because I was angry, not because I hated corporate. Actually, quite the opposite. I left with gratitude because it gave me that self-awareness. I also left with clarity. I finally understood something that had taken me years to learn. Just because you are capable of doing something doesn't necessarily mean it's where you are meant to stay forever. And I think many professionals struggle with this. We become successful at something, and then we feel obligated to continue doing it indefinitely, even when internally we know we've evolved. Sometimes the next chapter in your life requires a different version of you, and that's okay. Now, I'm not saying entrepreneurship is better than corporate. It's not. Both parts have pressure. Both parts have sacrifices. Both parts can be deeply fulfilling. What matters is alignment. Knowing yourself well enough to recognize where you do your best work, and having the courage to evolve when that answer changes. So if you're listening to this and feeling conflicted about your own path, maybe the answer isn't about choosing one identity forever. Maybe life is more seasonal than that. Maybe some seasons are about stability, some are about reinvention, some are about healing, and some about building. And maybe success is not about staying on one path forever, but becoming self-aware enough to know when it's time to change direction. This is my Dealmaker Diary. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.